everyone.
All right.
Hey, everybody. We are back, part 2 of the Jazz Fest wrap-up. We've had time for a change of clothes for those who so desired, or for those of us who just wear the same shit every day.
Raw dogging
it. It's no big deal. So we're on a weekend too, right?
We are, and so I've changed my shirt because I remembered I wanted to wear this shirt, which I bought from a craft vendor at Fest this year, and I love it. So I changed into this. The vendor is called Wazawazi, and they're these amazing rayon shirts. Sorry, I'm going to do the public service announcement
Do it.
because I really like the company, and the women that were there vending them were really cool, and I bought 2 of them. So if you're interested in cool rayon shirts, check them out, Wazawazi. And I also see that since we reconnected for week 2, Mark has moved from Gentilly to Fado.
Yes, for those of you watching on YouTube. So Nicole, I want to ask you, there's no truth to the rumor that the hosts of Talking Threadheads get gifts from the craft vendors?
No, there's no truth to that at all.
Nothing like that. Okay.
No.
Well, I do want to talk about the crafts for a second. Like we always I spend all the time talking about the music and then dabble in the a little bit in the lines and all that kind of stuff. But the Jazz Fest is a world-renowned crafts festival, and I go to every craft booth every weekend.
How do you find the time?
Shop. Pardon?
How do you, of all people, find the time?
I just, like, if there's a lull where I have 15 minutes, I'll run over there, and then, or if I need to go get what I call mighty beans, but meaty white beans, I call them mighty beans. If I go get those, I'll check out a couple of craft things. So Nancy and I will do that usually on the first day of each weekend to make sure no one else buys all our stuff. But the crafts are amazing.
Yeah.
I just like that we've learned, Jordan, that you are fueled by the meaty beans.
Yes.
The mighty beans.
I call them mighty beans.
The meaty mighty beans. All
You
right.
should do an ad for them.
Yeah.
I just did.
Fair. That's real. That's real.
All right, we have to move this ship.
Yeah, we do.
So
Locals Thursday, here we are.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna call on people. Swag, first Thursday, second weekend.
Yeah. So big surprise for me that day was someone who I don't think I mentioned it in the initial roundtable we did, but the Times Picayune had been sending out emails, hey, check these guys out each morning of Jazz Fest. And one of the bands they mentioned was Ranky Tanky, who apparently are representing a unique regional style of music from the Carolinas that sounded interesting. And they do try to seek out, the international bands and the bands that, don't neatly fit into the typical genres. And they were over there at Fado Do, and I really, really enjoyed that set. It was one of the highlights of the whole festival for me.
Yeah, I have to agree. Go ahead, sorry, Swag.
I was asking if anyone else caught that set.
Mark and I were down in front in Fado Do for that, and I think we were both, I don't want to speak for Mark as well, but I think we were both pretty impressed by them. And Mark said, oh, they'll be back every year. They'll get their invite, and they'll be tucked away in the blues stage next time.
Yeah, they were fantastic. Definitely the highlight of the whole fest for me. I'd never seen them before. I'd heard a lot about them. Bless you. And they really delivered. Fabulous group, lovely harmonies, very clever arrangements, mixture of gospel and jazz and African guitar. It was a tremendous mashup of all kinds of styles, and I loved it. And I've been listening back to the Monk Music live Jazz Fest recording for the last couple of days, and it sounds just as good now as it did then.
Oh, I'll have to pick that up. Thank you.
Fantastic.
Yeah, you do. Yeah.
Russ, that was your first day there.
It sure was. Oh my gosh. It was just like, by the way, the Gentilly Gate, they could not have cared less. I didn't have to take my chair out once. So whatever intensity of security there may have been on first Friday that was long gone by the time we got to locals Thursday. I mean, I had a great day. I decided because of the heat and also because my buddy Rob was only there. This was his only fairgrounds day. Did a lot less running than I normally do. And just I caught a whole bunch of sets, or like big chunks of sets. Love Nigel Hall, started out with him. Tony DeGrati had the vast majority of the amazing saxophone players of New Orleans on stage with him. There were a couple of key folks missing, but it was like an octet of amazing players. It was, and like the players that like you don't see as much of during Jazz Fest, right? Like the Clarence Johnsons and the Derek Duguays and the, you know, Kari Allen Lee was up on it. Roderick Paulin, like it was just a, you know, a murderer's row of saxophone talent. But I think the two biggest highlights was my buddy Rob is a drummer. So I made us stop what we were doing and beeline to the jazz tent for Herlin Riley because he'd never heard him before.
Wow. What do you think?
It was an incredible set. He brought a crew mostly from the Lincoln Center. Emmett Cohen was there on piano, Godwin Louis on sax. Like there's a part of me that was a little bit like, you're going to have like New York based horns on your Jazz Fest date, but they killed. They were so good. The whole band was incredible. And he loved it. And he was like, why have you been holding out on me?
Yeah.
Why have you not taken me to see this man before? I mean, and his band set at the now gone Prime Example in 2019, I think was my favorite night show that year. It was just, such a great show. And then like, we're leaving, but like we're stopping to sing Burnin' and Luton with Ziggy Marley on the way to dinner. And it was just something really like, there's just something about singing, you know, some of Bob's catalog with Ziggy that was just really powerful. And like, I had a few folks that were with me and like, were just like, it was just like something really special about it.
Yeah, I had a very similar experience with the Ziggy Marley closing set. I knew my friends were all looking forward to it and had been camped over there. So, and Mark Engel always says, you know, some nice reggae as the sun is going down on Congo Square. It just made a lot of sense. And anyhow, I went over and joined everyone, and like there was just something really sweet, right, about the crowd at that time. Like it was very pretty, very peaceful. It was funky. Everybody was feeling the vibe. It was like a medicine, right? at Congo Square right then. I loved it. It was a beautiful way to end the day.
For sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The highlight of the day for me was Tony DeGrati as well. I wanted to
Such a good
thank
set.
you for unpacking that set, because I didn't take any notes, but I think it's funny. Russ and I will text each other if we see Clarence Johnson, because I hope somebody tells Clarence Johnson that he's got groupies. It's me and Russ Agdern.
You see some big dude from New York, like heading your way quick. It's okay.
It's okay.
He's coming to say thank you.
Yeah, he means well. He comes in peace. Sorry, Mark, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, actually, I've been listening to the Helen Riley set on WOZ on their archive, which I think it just went off a couple of days ago. So it was a really good set. Sounded good. I wasn't there at the time, but I've caught it up later. But the Ziggy Marley, I started out at Billy Strings actually for the first half an hour of the closing set, which was good, but he was getting a bit jammy for my taste. So I thought I better head over to Congo Square, and Ziggy Marley was just blissful. I mean, I never saw Bob. Very few of us got to see Bob. But to see Ziggy looks and sounds like him at that stage with all the crowd singing along, it was just a great Jazz Fest moment. It really was.
Yeah.
I've often posed this question to people, but I ask them, what song do you think more people in the world know the lyrics to than any other song aside from Happy Birthday? And it's got to be a Bob Marley song. I just feel so many countries, so many cultures embrace a couple, like either Buffalo Soldier or whatever.
One Love.
I think One Love.
Yeah, One Love. It might be that the like most people, the highest percentage of people can sing the lyrics to that song.
No, nobody knows the part about about Armageddon, right? Nobody knows that he's singing about like Revelations, but like the chorus is so catchy and beautiful.
But every bar I go into, no matter what country it is, people sing along with that song.
Yeah, good point.
Absolutely.
Jordan, have you chimed in on first?
Yeah, so I started with Evermore Nest, who, because I always love the new bands that I've never heard of before. And they were really a sweet kind of like folky country outfit.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed her story. At one point she was talking about how everyone has a really good story for, becoming a musician. And she was this kind of privileged white woman from, the suburbs, but that's her story. So, she can't change it. I just thought that was an interesting way of putting things. And then I bounced over to Davis Rogan, DJ Davis, who was the guy who started All That, which is one of my favorite New Orleans bands. And Davis was also, featured on the Treme show, there was a character after him. And he is either amazing or like horrible. And this was a horrible situation. So yes, I really wanted it to be great, but we walked in there and we're like, nope, not today. Davis doesn't have it today. So we took off. And then Joe Crown, Jason Ricci, and Walter Wolfman Washington. I never give that trio, well, it didn't used to be Ricci, but the Joe Crown, Walter Wolfman thing enough time. It's phenomenal. Like no one could play the B3, which is one of my favorite instruments, like Joe Crown. And then Walter, I don't love his newest album so much. But when he's just sitting there perched on that stool with that blazing red guitar, and then playing, random licks that just fill in perfectly in the Joe Crown spaces. It was just really nice. The other two things, the Rumble was great. And I still don't know the difference between the Rumble and Chawa. There's one person who's different or something like that. But they were both great. I forgot to mention Chawa the other day. And then I closed with Betty LaVette, who is just, people throw around the term national treasure. She is definitely that. Her voice is incredible. I never loved her choice of songs that much, but her voice is spectacular, and I could again listen to her read the poem. And then my biggest surprise of the day was Libby Ray Watson and the Hoodoo Men. Go listen to her. It is so New Orleans and so honest. Her music is just so honest that you should. I was mesmerized by her set and couldn't leave, even though I really wanted to catch Herman Riley and Mr. Sip. But in the Lanyap stage, there are not many nicer places to be than sitting in that paddock with the sun shining, listening to great music. And then the one regret I had, was Antonio Sanchez. I wish I had gone to that Bad Hombre set, because I think when I listened to it online, it sounded great, and I wish I had seen it.
I'm noticing, we talked earlier about changing outfits. Mark Engel changes stages. We already talked that he went to Fado Do. Now he's at Congo Square. So I'm just wondering where he's going to be in 10 minutes from now.
Well, that was for Siggy Marley, I assume. You wanted to catch
exactly.
Yeah.
It's a multimedia experience.
We're all getting schooled.
Hold on.
We're all getting schooled.
Swag, did you make it over to Betty LaVette?
I did. Yeah, I started with Billy Strings that set, and got maybe the first half hour because he started earlier, and I hightailed it from there to the blues tent because Betty is such a unique vocalist. Yeah, absolutely love that.
Cool.
And if I can move that well at whatever age she is, I'll be very happy.
But do we want to see you dancing and singing, Jordan?
Yeah,
Definitely not. But maybe it'll make you smile.
Maybe it would actually. Yeah. All right. Friday. Nicole, I'm gonna call on you.
Oh, you can. Yeah.
I can. You don't have to listen, but yes, I can. I can
I like
try.
literally just flipped my cube. So, oh, all right. So Friday, I started out in the blues tent. Actually, Friday we had some rain, remember? That's right.
Mhm.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah, we got a little bit of rain. So when I got to the fairgrounds early and I was like, I'm just gonna stay on like the paved side, right, of the track until the ground dries out a little bit, which was like kind of like a great idea because I ended up catching some really interesting sets, the full sets. I got a little bit of Uncle Neff and then I went someplace else. I can't remember where. But my favorite set of the day was Stanton Moore in the jazz tent. It just completely cooked. Um, I have notes somewhere. I can't remember who he had with him,
I
but I was. Do you know, Russ?
Yeah, I mean he did the jazz trio.
Yes.
So it was Torque and Singleton, and he had Scarrick, and he had Jason Marsalis in on vibes for most of the set. It was phenomenal.
Yes, that is exactly what I had forgotten. Oh, so Friday, that was my highlight, my big highlight. Friday got pretty hot, if I recall correctly, after the rain and after the ground had dried. So I called it a day early. As I mentioned earlier, I had a little bit of trouble with the crowd at Festival Stage once I tried to get over there for Boss Skaggs time of the day. So I just, sometimes you have to cut it while you're ahead. So I went to see the Midnight Disturbers. I'm actually going to let Russ cover that set. But after that, I was like, today was perfect for what it was. I'm out of here.
Yeah, so I had kind of two comments about the weather. So the first, we had some rain on first Sunday, about a half an inch, and then about 2 inches on the second Friday, both times in the overnight and morning hours. They opened the gates about a half hour late each day. And I was pleasantly shocked at what good condition the grounds were inside the fairgrounds after the
Definitely,
rain.
absolutely.
Couldn't agree more.
I think they maybe got lucky that the rain didn't come after the gates were opened when people start, you have 80,000 people, pressing the rainwater down, making mud. I think because the rain came before the gates open, they had time to do whatever pumping they do whatever mitigation in terms of dumping sand or hay down. And yeah, I was, you're thinking it's going to be a shrimp boot day, and yeah, I mean, sandals were fine. It was remarkable. But yeah, you also mentioned the heat, and there've been hotter days, I'm sure, at the fairgrounds than what we had this year, but I don't remember a Jazz Fest in my memory where it was so uniformly hot.
Yeah.
Each one of the 7 days was really, really hot. And second Friday was the day I wilted. I was out there at Boz Skaggs at the fest stage, and I was enjoying the music, and about 20 minutes into the set, I'm like, I have to go find some shade. And so for the rest of Friday, and then as well as the next 2 days, Saturday and Sunday, to a large extent, I was picking who I go see by the whether I really thought I could do the sun or not, to make sure. And I've picked Jazz Fest sets based on the weather before, but it's always, well, it's raining, I want to go in a tent, something like that. And yeah, I don't ever, in 2 decades of going to Jazz Fest, I don't ever remember, I gotta pick a set because I can't do any more sun right now.
Swag, I'm curious, did that weather continue after Jazz Fest ended?
Yeah, it's been pretty hot, but I mean, it's May in New Orleans, it's probably typical. We just had some rain come in last night, and the heat's finally broken down back into the 80s. Yeah, it's hot.
Yeah, I did the same. I mean, I realized that I could spend time in the tent so that I could then be outside for something that I really was looking forward to. So that's exactly what I did on Friday. I did tents, and then I felt like cool and rested for Midnight Disturbers, which was exactly the plan I needed to follow.
Russ.
Yeah, sorry.
So, I mean, I think obviously, I don't have the depth of fest experience that Swag does, but I would concur that I don't remember a 4 days that were high 80s, low 90s, 4 days in a row, and like didn't abate Monday or Tuesday. Like it was still sweltering when I was driving to the old car rental place at the new Louis Armstrong Airport, which in and of itself was a little bit of a thing. But my day, I had this was Elijah's first day back and Marissa's first day back, and Marissa's parents and aunt and uncle. So like there was, we were sort of managing a crew a little bit more. We knew that the weather was going to heat up. We had like a little bit of a reprieve when we first got, right? It wasn't boiling yet. So we actually started at Congo with the Baptiste family, which was great. Although there's a good bit of talking, introducing various things. But if you were able to cut those out, and it wasn't even Russell doing the talking, it was like other family members doing a lot of talking. But the music was great. It was like some cool Pan-African, Pan-Caribbean stuff mixed in with the great New Orleans music. Caught a snippet of Sima Funk. They were fucking amazing. I'm sorry if I've broken the dam on our swear words.
You did.
But they were so good. He was so good. The whole band was so good.
Yeah.
Stanton was an absolute highlight. The moment at which we lost Elijah was we caught the like last half hour of the Art and Charles tribute, which was great. And we were trying to shade him. I was holding my umbrella over him. We were trying to find ways to keep him cool. Get to hear Ivan sing, Street Parade, and hear some amazing tunes. They had Brad Walker up to do Yellow Moon, play the sax part on Yellow Moon. It was really phenomenal. But then Elijah lost it. We needed to get him to shade and get him some ice cream or a mango freeze or a snowball stat. So a couple members of the family took him over to the big tree by Fado Joe to help him cool off. This was a day filled with highlights. And I don't know if this was my favorite fairgrounds day, but it was phenomenal. Obviously, the big emotional high point was the Midnight Disturbers, which we all were waiting on. It was just really powerful. And it was as big a group as I've seen. I think people really showed up to pay tribute to Kevin O'Day. Members of the Soul Rebels, Rebirth, Dozen, Galactic, Bonorama, Big Sam, Shamar, Scarrick, Mike Dillon. There was I think maybe 15 or 20 strong on stage. And then they brought up Glenn David Andrews because that, it wasn't enough to have all that. It was really hit you in the Kishka's guts kind of set. But I'm a huge sentimental spot in my heart for Wendell Brunius. So I did something crazy, which is after Glenn David finished, I went to go catch about 20 minutes of Wendell because we almost lost Wendell. He had a really serious heart thing between last fest and now. And so we went to go check him out and also get Elijah some more shade. I got to hear Busta Rhymes drop one of his favorite verses from MOP's Andy Up remix. And then we finished at Lagniappe with James Martin, who's, for those you don't know him, sax player. I think he maybe used to play with Shorty at one point. Does the Soul Brass band with Derek Smoker Freeman. And has a great own project of his own. He was great in Lagniappe, and it was just what the crew needed to cool off and relax. And then we actually did leave the fairgrounds a little early. But that Midnight Disturbers set, wow.
Nicole, how was Uncle Neff?
Oh, well, Uncle Neff, you were there for part of it, right?
I don't think so.
I remember
was me.
seeing you and Nancy. I might be thinking of something else.
She might have been.
Yeah, so here was what was fun about Uncle Neff. They get a little droning, right? And there's patterns and it's a little, I think it's a little odd for the blues tent. And you could see the crowd. Sometimes you're in one of the tents and things are a little unusual or a little, boundary pushing, and the crowd is like, wait, I thought someone was going to be ripping, you just
Right.
see the expressions. So sometimes I like that. I like putting people's expectations on their head. I thought they were great. They were a really nice way to start my day.
Yeah. Okay. Because I mean, my day was so easy until one point, and that'll become apparent in a second. But I started with Flow Tribe, one of my all-time favorites. Their energy is just fantastic. They have an artist on stage with them who I like watching better than Frenchie, who at any once in a while will like jump up and start dancing with the band. Flow Tribe is one of those ones a band that could only exist in New Orleans, where the lead singer is a trumpet player. Figure out how that works. It's just a fantastic gig. And then I made a point to see Sema Funk early because I knew I was not going to be able to see Sema Funk late. And it's like the fourth time I've seen Sema Funk, and they were, as a couple of you have said, fantastic. Like, he's a great front man. Those two women who played trombone and sax are fantastic and can sing.
Yeah.
The whole band has great energy.
Mhm.
Yeah, anyone should see them anytime they come to wherever they go. And I was going to leave to go to, yeah, I'm sorry, you were saying, Russ?
No, I just said I'm in. Like, yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah. And then I ran to quickly see Fofele, who I've seen grown up, when they were little kids. That felt like home. And then I boogied all the way over to the Art and Charles Neville tribute, and caught the first half of that, which I felt was really sweet, but also a little slow sometimes. It took them a while to switch people, and I could have used more Cyril. Like, his parts were great, but I wanted more Cyril throughout most of it. And then caught a little bit of Tommy Malone because he was kind of another kind of family dude. He was great to see. And then the worst possible conflict happened. The Midnight Disturbers, who lost Kevin O'Day, and the Campbell Brothers, who lost one of the Campbell Brothers. And I never get to see the Campbell Brothers. They don't play every year at Jazz Fest. The Midnight Disturbers do, so I chose the Campbell Brothers. And it might have been my favorite set of Jazz Fest. It was Chuck on that pedal steel. There's no one who plays the pedal steel that I've ever seen like him. It was fantastic. And so that was a great set. And then I finished with Elvis Costello just because, I grew up, I had a radio show in college in the 80s, and I felt like Elvis Costello should have been, and he was at best just okay, I thought. I don't know if anyone else caught him, but he did nothing for me in that. And I even like his new album a little bit, but his set didn't do much for me at all.
I'll concur with what you said about the Campbell Brothers. They were terrific. I caught most of that set before carrying myself away for some of the Disturbers.
Yeah.
I was so bummed about that three-way conflict.
Mm.
I was just, yeah. I'm glad you caught them and they were that great.
Yeah, I'm glad the Midnight Disturbers are great too, because I really do like Kevin O'Day, and I really would have worn a shirt, and like the whole thing. You can't be in two places at once.
Make that a four-way conflict, because I didn't see any of those, and I wanted to see the Campbell Brothers. I wanted to see Midnight Disturbers, but I had to go and see Tommy McLean with CC at Lanyap. Tommy's in his 80s now.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
And I needed to see him. I mean, so that was the toughest, probably the toughest clash of the whole festival, and it was always going to be difficult. But I'm happy I did what I did. I'm sad to miss what I missed. But generally, this festival, I was really delighted with my choices and wasn't too worrying about what I was missing.
Mm.
In the past, I was always very worried about, I should be here, I should be there. This time, I just enjoyed what I heard, and that was great for me. But someone else mentioned swag. Sorry,
Mark, I felt the same way about that sentiment in general. I don't know if it's because we hadn't been there for a while, but I did not worry about what I was missing as much.
We're getting older. We're maturing finally.
Yeah, maybe we're finally old enough to be confident in the decisions we make.
And I managed to walk with you or run with you to Fofele through the crowd. I remember that. So we went there together. I managed to keep up with you just about. So that was a good moment for me. But can I also mention, it was a day of firsts. I'd never seen Simmer Funk before, and I've changed my backdrop in tribute to them. They were great.
Yeah,
I'm happy to see they're going to be over in London in a couple of months. So I'm looking forward to seeing them. I'd never seen Boz Scaggs before, and that was, he'd had some illnesses back. He missed a festival one year, he missed Jazz Fest. He cancelled a show in London. I missed the Jazz Fest when he was on. So I'd never yet seen him. And I was really happy to see him and enjoyed the set, even though it was quite laid back and mellow. I thought it was a really good set. And unlike Swag, I stuck it out in the heat all the way through. Somebody loaned me a dime at the end. And I was delighted with that one. Before him, I managed to catch most of Chris Isaac. I mentioned in the pre-fest roundup, I was intrigued by that. And I went along there to check him out. It wasn't really happening for the first two songs, but then it all started to click. He did some covers, he did some songs I knew, and I ended up staying for that whole set pretty much. So that was enjoyable. And I think I closed with Roddy Romero that day, another kind of someone you can't see anywhere but Jazz Fest for me. So I was very happy to catch him again. A lovely set, not straight Zydeco or Cajun or anything like that. Mixes it all up, great vocalist and a great band. So that was a good finish for me that day.
The one
One
other
set on. Go
I
ahead.
wanted to make quickly was like the heat stuff. You know, I
Yeah.
started bringing spray bottles in,
Mhm.
and like one of those misters you buy from a big box hardware store.
Mhm.
And that saves me every time because the water on your skin just helps you catch the breeze a little bit.
Mhm.
And I didn't have any heat problems because of that. And I sprayed plenty of other people as well, who were quite happy to be sprayed as well.
Including me on my way to Irma the next day. And I
Oh,
was
I
so
did?
grateful. I was like, Jordan, coming through in the clutch.
All right, I've lost track. Who hasn't gone on second Friday? I think everyone's chimed in, right?
Yeah, I just
Yeah.
have one question. I'm curious.
Yeah.
As I looked at social media after the festival and people were saying what their favorite one was, there were a lot of people that seemed to be highlighting the Cowsill set on this day. I'm curious if anyone caught that.
Which one?
Cowsills.
Oh,
They're not
no.
not my people.
Yeah, not my thing either.
Maybe they were this day, but usually they're not.
What I heard on people streaming it on Facebook sounded really good, but all right, Saturday. Who am I going to call on first? I'm going to call
Well, you
on.
should call on me really quick because I didn't go to festival on Saturday. I stayed home. It was too hot for me.
Well, there
We
you
did.
go. So you've already chimed in.
Yeah, so I'm gonna go on mute and use the ladies' room.
All right, Mark Engel.
I think the
Okay.
porta potty lines are pretty short, Nicole. You should be fine.
I don't think she heard that though, but that's a great line.
I'm trying to get the right backdrop for this one, and I can't find it, so we'll have to stick with this one. Saturday was a lineup. It was a great lineup of the lineup, which we mentioned before the festival. I think it was Shannon McNally, followed by, let me just see, I'm going to cheat.
William Prince.
Shannon McNally, William Prince, Andrew Duhan, and the NOCA, the New Orleans Klezmer All-Stars, all favorites of mine. And the heat was really brutal that day as far as I was concerned. I had a swag day with the heat. So to hang in the lineup, which is predominantly shaded and breezy, it was a lifesaver. It really was. The music was very high quality from the start, from the get-go. And that was my camp for the day. All very, very high quality at the lineup stage. I'm trying to think where else I saw. I remember popping out to see Hooray for the Riff Raff, which I think they did mostly their new album, which didn't grab me as much as I thought it might. So quickly hot-footed it back to the lineup. I wanted to see John Boutte, but I couldn't catch him. Heard him on WOZ, and it sounded like a really good Boutte set.
Oh, so good.
You couldn't catch him because it was too crowded?
Well, no, I was at Andrew Duhan and a bit of Shovels and Rope. But I can't clone myself as well as Jordan does and be everywhere at once.
What did you do first, Mark? Before Shannon?
Bill Kirchen in the Blues Tent. I like Bill Kirchen a lot.
Oh, that's a good one.
Not a fan of the Blues Tent, but I really enjoyed his half an hour, 45 minutes. Very entertaining. I think I saw you there in the crowd, I believe. I believe you were there.
No, I was at Mere Borders.
Oh, okay. Oh, I know. It was Jim from San Francisco. That's who I saw there.
That's how I call him myself. I turn into Jim from San Francisco.
Us Americans, we all look alike.
The resemblance is amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks.
Swag.
Anyone else?
Yeah, so my Saturday highlight is someone who I didn't mention on the pre-fest roundup because she wasn't on the schedule yet. But,
Right.
Mavis Staples, to close it out was beautiful.
What stage was that?
That was in
Blues
Blues
Tents.
And was it crowded? Must have been packed, right?
No, it was fairly full, but it was not unmanageable.
I
Very
got
nice.
there. I got there just as she was ripping into that brilliant heads cover, and I was just like, it was like a birthday present.
Wow.
Yeah.
Anything else, Swag, before we move to Russ?
Yeah, one of the ones I was sorry to miss was Erica Badu, and I'm not sure who might have caught her, but it's it was a hard conflict for me. But I
I meant to see her, but I could not leave Mavis.
Same.
Russ.
Gosh, what a day this was. I'm just looking at my schedule. Jesus. Yeah, I mean, John Boutte's set was unbelievable. Nicole, I apologize. I was indeed one of those people who got to the jazz tent early and saved 4 or 5 seats and had to like politely apologize as the rest of my family took forever to finally get there. But they did actually get there, and it wasn't hours, it was minutes.
You are forgiven.
But he did classics. He covered Someday We'll All Be Free by Donny Hathaway, and I was like weeping in my seat. And it was like a last minute audible that I think his guitar player pushed him to do, or there was some sort of interchange with them on stage where he was like, this is not on the set list, so we're just gonna do it. And I just wept because I love that song. And then I left to catch some of Preservation Brass, but as I was leaving, he tore into Love's in Need of Love Today. I was just like, oh, come on, John, you're killing me here. I snuck a little, this was one of the days I spent actually a couple moments in the blues tent because what you were saying about Davis Rogan the other day, of course, reminded me of my favorite person who's either amazing or infuriating. I'm talking, of course, about the piano royalty of New Orleans himself, DeVell Crawford. I got to see 3 amazing, perfect DeVell moments. I got to catch him a couple times in the blues tent, just sounding amazing, doing 2 different covers of Please Send Me Someone to Love by Booker. And he's just in form, just amazing. And then I later saw him during one of the tributes. Which tribute was it? I think it was on Sunday.
Booker.
Maybe it was on Sunday, the Sunday tribute for
Booker.
No, but there was there any Dr. John tribute? Yes. Am I remembering that correctly?
Yeah, there was.
Sunday.
So like he played a great kind of slow and like grimy, funky right place, and then he walked off before the song was done. Inexplicably, Quint like kind of runs out and is like doing his like, yeah, well, we never what happens at Jazz Fest, kind of thing. But it was like, DeVell, come on, you could finish the song. It's okay. The best. I'm rambling. I'll try to rein it in. But like the 2 biggest highlights were the unveiling for Art and Charles. It was really powerful. And it was hard, like we were talking about before. It was, on the previously recorded episode, it was hard to like be there in the like ancestors area and see how many people we had to add this year, including Dr. John, who passed, I think, right before Jazz Fest last year. No, not last year, in 2019, like somewhere around then. So, but like, to be there, have Ivan do, sitting in limbo, it was really special. And the of course the portraits are beautiful. But the other thing I got to do was, Elijah had a rough day. It was super hot for him. He was mostly in the shade by Fado Dough, getting plied with ice cream by my, and mango freezes by my mother-in-law, thankfully. But he went with me to see the klezmers. We had a little end of Shabbos gathering with Mark. We went to see the klezmers at Lanyap, and they played this. The klezmers. It's interesting because like they mostly have their own shtick. They don't like dig so much into the deep cuts of the larger klezmer songbook, but they did. They played a fantastic klezmer classic called Ot Azoy. Not the Cab Calloway one, but the other one. And it was great because there's a part where there's audience participation. And if you know my son, he loves to yell. So I was like, all right, Tatala, here's what we're going to do. When we get to this part, you're going to hear it. You're going to yell Ota Zoe and then Gita Zoe with me. And I got him, he was like on a screen, like sad and sweaty, but he was like, okay, Tata. And we ran down front. And I got him to dance and scream with me, and it was like probably the best moment of my fest.
Wow,
it's so great to party with him.
That's a great story. Thanks for sharing that. That's great.
And I forgot to mention, I popped out from the Lanyap briefly to check out a band. I was curious about Puss in Boots, and the crowd was enormous there, which intrigued me. And it was only till the third song started and the guitarist took off her shades and started singing that I realized that it was Norah Jones.
Yeah.
I was the only person in that crowd who did not realize this was a Norah Jones side project.
I assumed you knew that, Mark.
I should have known that. I think I knew it once, and it just left. Pandemic brain had sorted that from my memory. But that was a pleasant surprise. So I enjoyed 25 minutes of that as well. That was a nice little set. Yeah.
Gordon, you haven't chimed in yet for Saturday.
Yeah, so the first two, I really wish I had seen Seva Vinay because I love the way he plays banjo in a comedy.
That was a miss.
Yeah, but I couldn't miss Mia Borders. I don't see her. She doesn't tour ever. And she was fantastic. Just the whole way about her. She has just such a nice way about her. And then the Serotones after that is a band that I love. And she came out in a crazy costume with all kinds of, and two of their band members had masks on and stuff like that. And they had, I think the whole crowd was waiting there for Stevie Nicks and the Revivalists. They're like, what is this? And a lot of them loved her, which is great. So it was good to see her make some new fans. I caught a little bit of, I really regret missing Michelle Lake because she's so good and like, I don't know, but I ran over to Shannon McNally, who I later saw a different time. And one of my, I just as her set ended, I ran over to the kids' tent to see the last bit with the Calliope puppets, because that just makes me smile to see the kids watching a puppet show at Jazz Fest. It just makes me happy. And Lanyap to kids' tent is pretty easy. I was amazed how small the kids' tent was, or the kids' area was this year compared to other stuff. No storytellers, no any of that kind of stuff, no arts and crafts stuff, just the tent.
All they had was the tent. It was about half the size.
And why?
I can only assume that was a reaction to COVID, that especially the younger kids aren't vaccinated. They didn't want everyone, gathering together closely, touching things, touching their mouths, all that stuff. And I'm assuming and hoping it'll be back next year.
I saw Michael White, which is again like being home and seeing family. And then William Prince, I wanted to check out, and I did. And he is, he's Canadian, but I forget what he called it, First Nations people, or first. I don't know what we call Native Americans. They have a different word, a different phrase for it. And he has such a warm voice and a nice way about him. I mean, his voice was almost as warm as Andrew Duhan's voice, which I find one of the warmest around. And I really enjoyed at least the last 3/4 of his set and wasn't going anywhere for that. I missed the revival, and then we had, I caught a little bit of Puss in Boots, like Mark had said, and then the worst conflict of all of Jazz Fest was this next time slot. Revivalists, hooray for the Riff Raff, Rebirth, John Boutte, Kenny Neal, Preservation Brass, Shovels and Ropes / Push and Boots, Monk Boudreau, Dottie Peoples, Andrew Duhan, Cedric Watson, and Rory Block, all at the same time. And I chose Dottie Peoples for most of it because she is probably the to me right now the best living gospel singer, if you don't count Mavis Staples as the gospel singer, around. And she was fabulous. Her voice is incredible. I knew I was going to catch Andrew Duhan a couple of times, so I wasn't so worried about that. But I did go catch the end of that set because I left Dottie a little bit early, and I caught the rest of Andrew because how could I not? Their whole trio stayed at my house. You know, I have to go see him. And I really wish I had seen Kenny Neal. I don't know if anyone else did, but he's just such a nice family guy. I wish I had seen him as well. And then closed with Mavis Staples, who I could not leave. And the emotion and power of her set. Again, if I'm whatever age she is and I can do half of that, I'll be happy. And like others have talked about the blues tent, I didn't mind the blues tent so much this year. I don't know if I always was able to find a seat once you walked around a little bit. I'm usually going in as a single, or Nancy has a seat for me and we'll go in twice, or one of us will find one for the other one. We don't normally save seats. I had no problem finding seats, especially after the first, 5 songs of the act, at any blues tent act that I went to. And I thought the sound was not as horrible as it usually is. They have to fix that. If I could fix that stage, the right hand would be all standing, the right side of the aisle would be all standing, and the left hand would be all seated. And that way everybody could have what they need.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah,
So
that conflict you mentioned, like if you ever hear anybody saying Russ doesn't really love his family, I went and sat in the jazz tent for 20 minutes saving seats for John Boutte so everyone else could go hear Rebirth. So I just, if you ever hear anybody questioning my familial love, you should just tell them that.
Pretty much the number one question I hear at Jazz Fest. So that's,
So Nicole, you did not go second Saturday, but you did go second Sunday. Why don't you lead us into second Sunday?
Yeah, Sacred Sunday. So I started the day at Andrew Duhan's breakfast. I saw Jordan and Nancy there. We saw Sam Doors and his band. And they played a perfectly lovely set that was a really nice way to begin Mother's Day. That Sunday was Mother's Day. Made it over to the fairgrounds for Alex McMurray and his band. Always a treat. They sounded great. They were just a wonderful way to start the last day of Jazz Fest. I caught the last 2 songs of TBC Brass Band on their upgraded Congo Square stage appearance. And of course they brought the heat and they had all the babies out on stage. And, that's another side of Jazz Fest that I love. So I was already winning starting Sunday. And then, not to return to it again, but Sunday was going to be hot. So I knew I was going to be outside early, and then I was taking it to the tents for most of the day. I sat for the entire set for Charlie Gabriel and Friends. As Russ always likes to point out, giving flowers to the living while they're here. So I really enjoyed every minute of Charlie's set and was really happy to be there to cheer him on and see so many people in the music community in New Orleans just kind of walk past the stage while he was doing his Charlie and Friends and give him a wave and a smile and take a picture and whatnot. That was a really nice moment. And then I think, if I remember correctly, I boogied over to Lanyat for Mahmoud Chouki, who was stunning. I mean, I messaged Russ Agner because I was like, Brendan Lewis was on stage, as was Chris Royal and a bunch of other players. It was intense. It was phenomenal. To me, that was the set of the day, hands down, maybe of the weekend. And then I stayed put in Lagniappe for Tom McDermott and Aurora Nealand. It was really interesting to hear Aurora play some piano,
Yeah.
and some covers that I haven't heard her play before. I think her voice sounds really beautiful right now. I think, so, I don't know, she's been working on something during the pandemic or what, but I felt like she had like a clarity and a crispness to her voice that was beautiful. It complemented her music really well. And then of course I stayed for all of Helen Gillet's set because Helen's my girl, and I thought she played a really beautiful tribute to her mother and to women on Mother's Day. And then I did a quick drive-by of most of the stages before I left. It was a beautiful jazz fest. I had a beautiful end of the day for Sunday.
Lovely. Russ, what about you, Russ?
Well, so the day started with Marissa's parents and Elijah declaring that they wanted to go do some masked indoor things. So it left Marissa and I and Marissa's aunt and uncle to be at the fairgrounds, which meant it was, in some ways I was sad that Elijah wasn't there for Sacred Sunday, but it also meant that the logistics were a lot less challenging and I could just run and do what I wanted. Started at TBC. I've had a special place in my heart for them for a long time. They lost their sax player many years ago, like a week or so after Jazz Fest. And then a couple of years ago, there was somebody who is really a key part of the culture scene, Mardi Gras Indian scene, who I actually knew about through her work. Oh gosh, I'm losing her name. I'll come back and I'll tell you guys the name of the person. But she passed away. She was injured in the Mother's Day incident that happened a few years ago and ended up passing. Deb Cotton, that's right. She passed right before Jazz Fest. And TBC did an incredibly powerful second line for her the day she passed, and played an amazing set for her the weekend after. And so I always try to catch them at least once. And that was sort of where I started. That day I spent actually a good bit of time in the cultural tent, more than any other day. Wevello was throwing down some really serious Latin groups. Like, as a New Yorker who got to hear Tito Puente several times in my life, I have a pretty high standard for, especially at Jazz Fest, because the opportunity cost, right? So I have a pretty high standard for when Mambo is going to make me stop and listen. They were freaking amazing. They sounded really great. And then from there, the whole set for Charlie. I caught some of Kari Allen Lee's Grover Washington set, which I thought was really solid. I was bummed to miss the set that Nicole texted me about, because a bunch of people reached out to me about that afterwards, but I was already committed at the jazz tent. I couldn't make it back in time. Speaking of giving people their flowers, caught a good chunk of Miss Irma's set. Thanks again, Jordan, for that water splash. That really helped. And then caught Aurora singing that really intense song about the pandemic. And then the rest of her and Tom at Lagniappe. I think the set of the day for me was, and this is something I'm riffing off something I think you said earlier, Jordan, about the 79er gang, maybe in the previous episode. Big Chief Juan. I think Big Chief Juan is among the folks who are the future of Mardi Gras Indian music and New Orleans culture bearers in general. His set in there was a scorcher, unspeakably good. He blended in, meters, covers, and Zydeco and jazz and hip hop and Latin and into the straight Indian funk. And it was just speaking of things you're only going to get in New Orleans, unfortunately, but the way he put this stuff together, and he covered what I think of as, it's probably not a buckwheat tune, but he covered a Zydeco tune towards the end of his set, and I'd just gone to take a picture of and say hi to Buckwheat Zydeco's portrait at the ancestor area. So then coming from that to seeing Big Chief Juan throw down, Headhunters, New Birth also threw down in that set. And then I caught some of Mays and Frankie Beverly. I had to catch Buddy Guy. And I caught Buddy Guy's like first 15 minutes, including when he chastised the crowd for messing up Hoochie Coochie Man and messing up singing along with him. It was hilarious and amazing. But I closed out with Sun Pi. Sun Pi has been first weekend a lot. He's one of my favorite of the Zydeco folks. You know, I think if you can go from being an NFL player to like taking a second career, being so good at Zydeco that Paul Simon decides to take you on tour, like he's just amazing. He's a great personality. He's a lot of fun. He had Uncle Roger Lewis sitting in with him on Barry. I got to dance with Marissa, even though it was so hot. It was just, you know, I felt a little weird not catching any of Shorty to close out because he's the closer, but there was just something real nice about Marissa and I when we first met, we sort of bonded over Zydeco. So like getting to close out with Sun Pi was really special.
Swag.
Yeah, I think top to bottom, Sunday was probably my best day musically at the festival. I started out with MoFest, who's someone I'd highlighted on our pre-fest call.
I was bummed to miss them.
The Professor Longhair veterans and tribute. When I first caught them last fest, they were opening up Sunday morning at the Lanyap stage. And this time there's a big bump up because they were opening up the fest stage. And I'm not a rail guy anymore. I'm not a standing room only section guy anymore. But early in the day, I got in early and it was not crowded, so I was right up leaning on the rail for the whole set, and they were just terrific. Got the beginning of a Dr. John tribute, and then it was getting kind of warm out there already. So back to Lanyap for Choki, who I said is terrific. Lucas Nelson I saw after that, and I wasn't sure how much I would like them. I'd seen them before when they backed Neil Young Jazz Fest some years ago, but I hadn't seen him fronting his own band, and yeah, I really enjoyed that set. And then put my parrot head on and got a bunch of Jimmy Buffett, got some of the Headhunters, and then I did my closing lap with about 15 minutes each of Bum Bum Vivant and Kermit Ruffins and Buddy Guy, and then finishing at Shorty. So, yeah, start to finish, a terrific day for me.
Very nice. I'm going clockwise on my screen, so it will be Engel and then Jordan.
Yeah, I thought on paper this was not the strongest closing day I remember, which surprised me. Perhaps Willie Nelson pulling out at the last minute had something to do with that. It wasn't, a lot of sets didn't really grab me, but of course I had a good time. What I did see, I enjoyed very much. As Nicole mentioned, the Mahmoud Shouki set was absolutely incredible. No surprises. I'd seen him a few times before, and I was nagging all kinds of people to go and check him out. I think he's going to be, if he's not already, he's going to be a world music superstar, and not just in New Orleans. He will break out all over the place. Tremendous player of all stringed instruments, and he put together a great band. Completely different band to what I saw him just a few days earlier at Snug Harbor. A completely different band and different music. So he's a huge talent, and that went very, very well in that setting. What else did I see that day? Trying to remember. Tom and Aurora, to see much of that set. Saw quite a good chunk of Helen Gillet as well. The closing was a problem for me because I think, along with 20,000 other people, I decided there's no Willie, so we'll go and see Norah Jones. And to my horror, when the jazz tent hove into view, there was thousands of people outside the tents, hundreds at each exit, and literally the whole of the area between the rear entrance and the gate or the fence for Acura was full. There were thousands and thousands of people standing, sitting, camping. There was no possible way of getting in that tent. So I had to do a quick plan change, and like Ruby K, Russ said, Sun Pie was my man. Closed out at the Fader Dough. It was a really nice way to go. I really wanted to see Nora, but I was happy to catch Sun Pie. So an interesting last day. As I say, I think it could have been a stronger lineup for the first and the last days, but I enjoyed nonetheless.
Jordan.
So like Nicole, I did breakfast.
Mhm.
Caught one band before Sam Doors, which was Gabrielle Cavassa, who was I'd never seen before. So she was a nice little, she did some kind of jazz. She has a nice voice. She's I'm finally made some time. I saw all of Alex's set, Alex McMurray. I thought he did a really solid set. It was it started pretty mellow. He didn't go into any of his crazier songs, but then he did this whole, I think, 5 chicken songs in a row. Like, I don't know how he tied, how many other songwriters can have 5 chicken songs, but he seems to.
Little Freddie King.
Yeah, that's probably true.
The meter's got a couple,
Yeah, but yeah. Anyway, Ninth Ward Chickens, which he can only do live when he has a full band, I thought was great. I love that. If I could hear that song live every time he plays, it'd make me happy. And then I saw I made a little time for John Mooney, which I usually don't do. I love John Mooney, but this time I just decided I would go see him. It was weird that he was kind of sitting in the corner of the blues tent. Like, instead of in the middle, he was like off in the if you're facing the stage, the left corner. But whatever, that's where he was. The tribute to Dr. John, I enjoyed a lot, especially the John Cleary and Cyril parts. Irma Thomas also did a nice job, and John Boutte, all those 3. Again, I didn't care as much for the DeVelle Crawford pieces. And then I did something that, again, one of those things that only happens at Jazz Fest. Nancy and I went over to the Cultural Pavilion tent for the Winsboro Easter Rock Ensemble. And that is a tradition that is about to die in Louisiana, which is they have a table full of cake, and they all kind of dance around the table full of cake with in white outfits and the big feather thing, and they just kind of chant. They make sure that it's not dancing, it's parading, because they're not allowed to cross their legs when they walk. Anyway, it was fascinating, a whole different cultural piece of Louisiana that I never knew about. I don't know how much longer it'll be there, but the guy who was kind of singing or chanting while the whole group it was just really moving and really interesting. Missed Irma Thomas for the, probably 13th consecutive Jazz Fest. I always mean to see her, and I never get around to seeing her. And then I did enjoy the Aurora Neal Inn as well, especially, I think, Russ, as you mentioned, that funny pandemic song that she had written. I thought that was really nice. Caught a little of Tuba Skinny, which I like a lot. And then finished with Buddy Guy, fully intending to go see everybody else as he started to do his shtick, which, gets tiring. But I didn't find him tiring at all. I found him charming, and his playing was great. We brought some family members up on stage. I couldn't leave Buddy Guy. So again, I finished in the blues tent, and that was enough.
I want to throw you guys a curveball as we end this show. And I just want one band or one musical act that you would want to see next year for Jazz Fest that you personally have not seen before. One.
Like a band we've never seen, or we've never seen at Jazz Fest?
You could answer it any way you want, either way. I mean, I'll while you guys are thinking about that, I'll just chime in. I'll say Paul McCartney. I think would be great. They've been rumored to have Paul McCartney for years and years and years, and I would love to see him there.
Allison
Go ahead. Sorry.
Allison Russell. Like, if you've ever seen Birds of Chicago, and she's blowing up now as well, and that all-female band she does would be a great Jazz Fest
Mhm.
Or maybe Lyle Love and his large band, although he's probably played before, right?
He's
Yeah.
played
Yeah.
before, yeah.
Yeah. I take that back. So now I'll go with Allison Russell.
I'm looking at you, Swag. You don't know that, but I am.
I've done a pretty good job with my bucket list over the last decade or so. There's not a whole lot of bands that are still touring that I'm dying to see that I've never caught. So I'll answer with someone who's never played the fest before. I'd like to see The Word at the fairgrounds.
You like to see who?
The Word, the all instrumental Sacred Steel Gospel that Robert Randolph. and friends.
Yeah.
They had a night show at Tips that I missed this year because I was elsewhere. But yeah, they've never not been to the fairgrounds. And if they could tear things up there.
Nicole, now I'm looking at you.
Yeah, I'm a little annoyed by this question, Chris.
There's the eye roll. There's the eye roll.
I know you well enough to know as soon as I was asking it, I could see your face.
Yeah, the viewers at home missed the eye roll because I did it while the camera was on you.
Well, we promised a whole show of eye rolls, so we will get to that in season 3. But go ahead.
So I'm not sure. I mean, there are so many artists out there who I think would just be a perfect fit at Jazz Fest. I don't even know where to begin. You know, I was chatting with some people before when the lineup was coming out, like just artists I've seen in the last year who, when hearing them, I was like, oh, this band would be perfect, a great fit. Like, I think Neil Francis should be at Jazz Fest. I think his piano style and his funkiness fit in perfect and attract another audience. I would love to hear. So Riley Downing plays with Sam Doors and has played with Hooray for the Riff Raff and that crowd. He put out an album that was one of my favorite albums of last year, that I think has that sort of like swampy, funky, new rock and roll sort of thing, that would just go, again, perfect. He'd be great on Lagniappe. That's just the tip of the iceberg. You could do a whole episode where I roll my eyes and talk about who I want to see at Jazz Fest if you'd like to, but it will not be today.
Russ.
I have a whole list of people, but there's one that's at the top. If they could get him, he is a no-brainer. He is somebody that you would have to put at festival stage, but would be fine at Congo. He is somebody who all of the New Orleans communities and folks coming from out of town would be so fired up to see. And his name is D'Angelo. D'Angelo would be perfect BNA that would appeal to everybody. It would fit in incredibly well musically. I mean, it's just, his stuff is so funky. He is so beloved. He is such an incredible musician. If you're watching this, call me. Let's figure out a plan to make this happen.
Love it.
Yeah, Quint is a regular listener. We know he'll take this under advisement. Mark Engel.
Was D'Angelo never on a Jazz Fest?
Because of Essence, I think he's more at Essence than anything else.
Yeah.
And that's probably the biggest hurdle, more than wanting him, you know.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, Paul McCartney would be amazing for, I know Quint seems to keep trying to get the Rolling Stones and hasn't worked out, but Paul McCartney would be unbelievable. I'd go for that. I mean, I was a bit surprised that the Black Pumas, who have really exploded the last couple of years, were not chosen for this year. I mean, I think I'm not sure if they were playing in Memphis, so they were around, but that was a surprise. Similarly with Charlie Crockett, these are not bigger band; these are a little smaller than Paul McCartney, obviously. I know Ry Cooder has played Fest before, but I haven't seen him there, and he has so many different projects. I'd love to see him at Fest again, or well, for the first time for me. I think it's time, long overdue. He should be back at Fest. And every year they seem to have one British group with Elvis this year, but I don't think they've ever had Nick Lowe, who would also go down very, very well, or the Kinks, if they can ever get it together again. That would be cool.
Does Ray Davies still live in New Orleans? I don't even know.
I don't think he lives there. I see him in London every now and again. He was there quite a while ago when he got shot.
Right.
That was about 20 years ago now. I don't think he lives there, but he doesn't live too far away from where I am right now. So I have seen him wandering around. I know where he is right now. He'll be doing what I should be doing, is watching my football team play the last game of the year, because he's a supporter of the Arsenal. So
So
he'll be there.
I just got a text from one of our producers who's saying we got to wrap this up. So this has been great, you guys.
Wait, we have to finish. You can't ask the question and not get everyone to answer.
Didn't I get everyone to answer?
Did everyone answer?
Yeah.
Jordan, you didn't answer, did you?
Yeah.
I did. I started
sorry.
with Russell, but I would add, because I didn't have time to think about it, Fantastic Negrito would be incredible.
Oh yeah,
Ooh,
definitely.
And Beth Hart and Joe Bonamassa would also be fantastic. I don't know if Joe Bonamassa played before, but I've never seen him. And he's like the one blues guy who I'd like to see.
Wait, if I could tack on one more, Joshua Redman. He is an amazing sax player, and he's done several like really funky albums that I think like, I mean, one of my favorite shows that I've ever seen in my life was he did a surprise set with Soul Live as part of the Jazz Festival here in New York in 2008. And it was just like those two units together was just like so freaking good.
I'm also surprised New Master Sounds have never played.
Well, they usually do the night shows, right? I mean,
yeah, but they've never played Jazz Fest, I don't think.
Yeah.
Has Geneva
Grandson would be great.
Has Geneva or Geneva Magnus ever played Jazz Fest?
I don't even know who that is.
She's a great blues singer. She's great.
Yeah. All right. So
I know we've got to get our producers are telling us to wrap up, but could we just have like one question of like, what was your favorite non-fairgrounds musical moment or some version of that? Because we saw so much great music during the rest of the
here's how I'm going to package that.
Thank you.
It'll be 15 seconds. Okay. So first of all, we got the panel together and it went from 1 hour to 2 hours, 2.5 hours, because I could keep talking about this forever. That's the truth. We should do another wrap up where we do talk about these things in depth, night shows, days between. The reason why I have a hard stop is because my family is doing makeup Mother's Day today because my butt was at the fairgrounds for Mother's Day. So let's not piss off my mom. I have 12 minutes and then we pull the plug. Okay. So everybody can do a real lightning round of days between or evening. Give us the headlines. Russ, go now.
30 seconds.
Don't piss off my mom.
The Robusta set and Stanton Moore night at the New Toulouse Theater, which is I love what they've done to fix the venue. And Robustus at the Pottery.
Is that what that became?
What was the question?
Never mind.
Oh.
I don't want to piss off Nicole's mom.
Yeah, you don't want to. You do not want to.
Nobody wants that.
All right, Jordan, it's your turn. Go ahead.
I think 3 shows at night that I loved. One was Alex McMurray and Lulu and the Broadsides at the Saturn Bar. Great double bill. And I love that place. Iceman Special did a 2 a.m. show at DBA, and it was phenomenal. And by far the best set I saw at night was Scully and the Rough Seven at BJ's on, I think it was the second Saturday night, which ended up with Machia Lake and Scully rolling around on the floor, screaming "You are beautiful," doing the "You Are Beautiful" song. And then Machia came up bleeding a little bit, which was also part of the rock and roll experience, and she loved it. It was just fantastic. It's the way sloppy rock and roll, but expertly emotional should be.
Swag.
Well, Russ took my answer that House Band 119 Robustus said at the Patry was off the charts great. So I'll throw in one other, which was I really enjoyed the Honey Island at the Broadside doing their Pink Floyd show.
I meant to get to that.
Musically, it was terrific, but
that was fun. I thought
they managed to add a light show. They had smoke and lasers going on, outside of the Broadside that I'd never seen there before. Yeah, it was something too.
Swag, that they did that same light show. I think it was the same equipment at DBA for the Iceman special show, which it was really interesting to see it indoors and outdoors. Because it was similar.
All the outdoor stuff was so great, and it was among the things that made me feel like I could actually come and enjoy myself. But there was just so much.
Angle.
I think you may have been at some of the shows I enjoyed best. Rory Danger and the Danger Dangers. Valparaiso Men's Chorus, Satin Bar. That was incredible.
Those are the two I most regret missing.
Yeah. Les Filles de Ligidad at Music Box, my first time at Music Box. That was incredible. And I managed to catch a 2 a.m. show, which was Kamasi and Glasper and Nicholas Payton sitting in at One Eye Jacks, which was incredible.
Oh,
to be with all those guys with 100 people, I mean, in a small club, extraordinary.
It killed me to miss that.
Yeah.
You know, I forgot to mention the Music Box Village. I saw that Devil's Whistle that Mars Williams had put together.
Oh yeah, how was that?
I've never seen anyone use that space more effectively. It was beautifully choreographed. They had dancers. They had people actually using the music houses in every one of the music houses. It just felt like there was music coming from everywhere. They had Michael Zarang doing percussion from inside, like he was playing on those wood things that looks like a drum kit, but it's hubcaps and stuff like that. It was spectacular.
I would second everything that I was at that Mark just mentioned. I was not at Kamasi, Washington, the 2 a.m. show, but I can only imagine how good it was. Of course, Valparaiso was nuts. I brought friends who had no idea what it was, and they had been awake all day and in the sun, and they were like, whoa, like, where are we? What is going on? And it was right after we left the music box, which is like extra trippy, right? If you really want to freak out your friends, do that.
Yeah,
that's amazing.
When Valparaiso starts, it's like the Saturn turns into like a ship and you're like at sea, you know, and people start to get a little queasy. I would add one more night show, and that was Anders at the Chloe, which was really weird Renee, Chris, Mark, and I were among a crowd of maybe 25 or 30 people who had the opportunity to hear Anders, and I'm not sure who he was with. I apologize, but we got to see them at that little hotel, the Chloe uptown, in like a living room, and it was so cool. So that was the highlight for me.
Mark has to go in, right? Mark Engel, have you chimed in?
He just
I've done
did.
mine.
Yeah.
I've done mine.
I
Well, I
forgot
second
that they
the
wouldn't have had a Carol the Station also. They are always incredible.
So
Also,
Right.
my arrival at Jazz Fest moment was striding into Freakonox at midnight on Monday night, and having them basically start as I walked in. It was empty enough that I was able to do like an hour plus. But the renovations in the space of the Toulouse are great. Both bars are now on the side. Yep. And they had speakers both in the bar and outside the bar. So when I was feeling like it was too crowded, I could still hear. So I ended up catching like a good 2/3 of that set. And just hearing them makes me feel like I'm home.
Dope. I love it.
That's great to hear.
Yeah. Well, guys, this was a treat. I loved it. I'm sorry that I have to run, but mom's Mother's Day is overdue. So I need to go make lunch for everybody. This was so nice. Thank you. I hope everyone enjoyed.
Yeah.
thank you
Yeah.
guys.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us. This has been great.
All right.
Thanks
And
for
to our
having us back.
listeners.
This is so much fun.
Awesome. Love it.
Thank
All
you.
right.
You guys.
See you next
Bye.
year.
All right.